As I boarded a flight to Zurich, I was encircled by the silent commotion of first-class passengers and well-groomed airport announcements. They used to make me grin, just seeing her name on the screen when my phone buzzed. Instinctively, like muscle memory connected to happier times. But that morning, I felt nauseous and twisted before I even responded. Perhaps out of intuition, or perhaps because her name no longer looked appropriate on my screen. "You might want to sit down," she said. Her voice was cold. She giggled nervously, then apologized. I was halfway through the boarding tunnel when she gave a flat delivery, almost as if she were reading from a script rehearsed in front of a mirror. I froze, moved aside to allow others through, let them bear the weight of her tone. Even when she stated, "I sold the farmhouse," I couldn't reply. My mouth hung open, the words trapped somewhere between astonishment and growing sickness. She added that it was worth $9 million. But she was giving me a discount on a pair of shoes. "The name hit," she said, "but you never did much with the place. And Rye needed the money for his fitness app." With my boarding pass crumpling in my hand, I leaned against the jetway wall. "You mean your personal trainer?" I asked, my voice quiet and deadly calm. She paused, then finally said, "He believes in me, in us. He needed a partner." That was all I needed. I hung up, not because I had nothing left to say, but because if I'd stayed on the line another second, I might have screamed, cursed, lost the last shred of composure I had in a public airport. So I turned around, went directly to the airline counter, canceled my departure to Zurich, where I was scheduled to give a speech at the Global Agricultural Summit. To present a hybrid irrigation model I had been working on for 5 years, but at that moment, none of it mattered. The most important thing was getting home, and it took me 4 hours to travel each mile from the airport back to the estate. "Needed it more than you." That statement looped in my mind like an awful song I couldn't turn off. Not just for its brutality, but for its conceit. As though she truly believed she could steal what generations had built and hand it off to a clown in gym shorts just because he believed in her. I wasn't shocked by Rye at all. I'd noticed the signs: too many late sessions, weekend retreats that weren't about wellness. I let the lie live because it was easier to believe the illusion than face the truth. I made our house a ghost, silent but still standing. But this wasn't just infidelity, it was theft. It was betrayal disguised as cheerful small talk. She once said I was too innocent to notice the board, that she was playing chess. But what she didn't realize was that the farmhouse she sold wasn't even the real one. She never knew that, never cared to. By the time I arrived at the estate gates, the sky had turned a gentle gray. Rain threatened, but hadn't yet fallen. I stopped at the doorway and looked up at the iron sign. Toiver Acres. My grandfather's name, his legacy, our legacy. The mansion that stood before me was familiar, yet its soul was gone. Old brick covered in cheap paint. New furniture, awkward and try-hard. Light fixtures changed. The air itself different. A hollow scent that wasn't ours. But I didn't get angry, didn't weep, didn't even ask who had moved in, because I already knew, the moment she told me what she'd done. She'd sold the guest house, a replica I had refurbished 10 years ago while recovering from back surgery, the one tourists rented for weekend getaways. She sold a shell, and I stood on the gravel path, exactly where the real farmhouse used to be, before I moved it piece by piece years ago. She believed she had robbed me, thought she'd taken everything, but all she'd done was pawn off a stage prop, and I laughed, not bitterly, not broken. It was a genuine, clean laugh. She had no idea how much worse she'd made things, for herself, because now I wasn't just angry. I was focused. I turned away from the fake house and headed for the real one. hidden in an old ironwood grove behind the orchard, wrapped in the same white brick my grandfather laid by hand in the 1940s, intact, whole mine. I lit the fireplace, sat in the antique wooden chair by the window, and thought about the 10 years I had trusted her, the compromises. I used to bring her here, show her the soil, the fields, the sunsets. I thought she understood what it meant, to be part of something built to last. But she didn't. The woman I married sold this home for a boyfriend's business plan. I poured a drink, watched the flames dance against stone, fueled by protein powder and paper-thin ambition. She expected me to come back in rage, but retaliation, it's quiet, careful, legal. I'd call Miles tomorrow. Tonight, I'd let the storm inside me settle. Long shadows stretched as the orange glow brushed the tops of the trees. I wasn't heartbroken. That part was done. Instead, I felt something cooler, steadier, like smoke rising from a chimney. The land was scorched, yes, but not lost. I walked. The gravel crunched under my boots. The flower beds had been filled with mulch and cheap landscaping stones. The wind chimes were gone. The rocking chair my grandfather used vanished. The framed family portraits? Gone. She changed the locks, as if I were the intruder, but I had placed a master key years ago during renovations, because back then I was trying to keep outsiders out, not my own wife. Inside was worse. The fireplace sealed, mahogany trim painted over in cheap white. The air heavy with lemon-scented desperation. A black and gold abstract poster hung where my grandfather's portrait used to be. I passed through the kitchen, the place she once burned pancakes, where we laughed, where she used to sing to herself on Sunday mornings. It was all gone. But I didn't feel pain, because this wasn't the real house. She didn't even know it existed. Tucked beyond the willow-lined brook was the true farmhouse, moved board by board, brick by brick, preserved, protected, alive, and inside it, beneath a hollow floorboard, was the deed, signed, notarized, and a letter from my grandfather. It read, "If you're reading this, it means the house has become a target. We don't build things for comfort in this family. But if someone tries to take that away from you, let them think they've succeeded. The land remembers. And so do you." I exhaled, closed the letter, returned it to its hiding place. The wind outside began to shift, not with violence, but with release. I walked the perimeter, ready to reclaim not just land, but clarity. I passed the orchard, picked up a rotting apple, let its juice run down my fingers. She thought she'd won. But all she did was sell herself out, a medal worn without being earned. She believed she'd taken everything, but she never had it to begin with.